Hello, my name is Rachel Nadolna. As the OHUG Education Senior Associate, I would like to welcome you to today's webinar, Modern Recruitment Marketing Strategies for Oracle, PeopleSoft, and Taleo Clients. Today's presenters are Jade, Bourelle, Stephen Schwander, and Ian Alexander. Please feel free to submit questions throughout the event via the question and answer box on your webinar toolbar. The questions will be answered at the end of today's presentation. Following the webinar, a survey will appear and you will have the opportunity to evaluate today's event. Thank you in advance for your feedback. The replay of this webinar will also be available for download on the OHUG website. And with that, I would like to go ahead and hand it over to today's presenters, Jade, Stephen, and Ian. Please go ahead, gentlemen.
Great. Jade Bourelle speaking. Thanks very much, and welcome to everybody on behalf of the Talemetry team. Thank you for attending today's session. As the title indicates, our conversation today is going to focus on recruitment marketing strategies, the trends that are occurring in the marketplace, the tools that are required to support those trends and strategies, and we look forward to your questions at the end of the session. From an opening conversation, we want to talk a little bit about recruitment marketing in parallel to corporate consumer marketing. When we're speaking of modern recruitment marketing, modern marketing overall, what we're speaking of is a pretty simple definition in the approach of identifying a target audience. In the case of recruiting, the specific types of talent you're looking to recruit, identifying the marketing channels that you're going to use to reach those individuals, whether that's advertising or direct sourcing or referral channels, and then the message you're using to communicate to those individuals, and then the measurement of those activities as to what's working, and a continuous refinement of making sure that your channel and your message is reaching the results that you want. All of that requires a very detailed measurement, and that process of consumer marketing and reaching individuals through defined channels and marketing messages has obviously undergone a great deal of change over the last several years in consumer marketing. And what we're going to talk about today is how those basic principles work from a recruitment marketing perspective, and some of the specific considerations and strategies and tools that you might want to consider as you're looking at evolving your recruitment marketing strategies for your organization. Stephen?
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephen Schwander. I work also with Jade at Talemetry, and my role is to work with some of our larger clients and help them figure out how to put these tools in place and drive some business value. I've been around recruiting long enough to have put in the first applicant tracking systems in at least a couple of my employers over the last couple of decades, and have seen things grow and change and evolve over time. Working with our current clients, I'm seeing a change to a much more modern approach to recruitment. If you think back to a more traditional recruitment approach, I remember when the applicant tracking systems came in, and that was just a huge evolution, and it was big to talk about how we were putting in supply chain type processes to help people apply to jobs and to help HR manage the process to bringing them on board. So traditional recruitment model is still very focused on supply chain. Where are the people coming from, and how can I bring them through the process to execute a hire? Therefore, it becomes extremely transactional in nature. I have an open job to fill or a series of open jobs. I need to get those filled with the best possible candidate in the quickest possible time. It's typically reactive. Hiring managers open up a role and throw the order over the fence to recruitment, and we've got to post and pray that people are going to come in and apply for those jobs. It's very hire focused. Who did you hire? When? How quickly did you hire? Were they the right hire? And at the end of this whole funnel supply chain process, we sort of end up with a winner and a bunch of losers, folks who didn't get the job, and then we've lost also contact with those folks who came in second, third, or fourth place as well. So very traditional recruitment model, and I think most of the clients that we're working with are seeing that there's a need to evolve, and where does that evolution move to? It's a much more modern approach. This one is focused on networks. It's not just finding that single person, but building a network of capable people that you can reach out to when the time is necessary. Therefore, it's got to be much more relational. How do we bring information to those networks and create a sense of belonging to those networks so that they have a positive experience with our brand and begin to build a relationship with our brand? It's hopefully much more proactive. We hear much more conversation about pipelines of candidates and getting out ahead of the curve and looking for good talent, beyond just a specific open requisition. So therefore, then it's much more talent focused. It's about building that talent pool that when the time comes and an open position comes and it's critical, you've got that pool of talent focused to be able to reach out to, and it's building these qualified talent pools. I started in headhunting, and way back then we called them QAI. Are they qualified? Are they available? Are they interested? And the need to keep that pool of people who are qualified, who are interested, and who hopefully are available when you need them to be available, is what the modern recruitment approach is all about. Just a quick slide. Our next slide is just a quick reminder from Burson that organizations who do have this more mature talent acquisition function are 1.3 times more effective on business outcomes. And so those of us who have lived through the conversations of bringing HR and recruitment to the business table, we need to have that mature function on the talent acquisition side to be more effective with our business outcomes. Those organizations are 2.6 times more effective on talent acquisition outcomes. They get the job done better, faster, and at a higher quality. They're 1.7 times more likely to have effective relationships with hiring managers. And again, this is not directly related to the tools, but when we've got the right platform and we've got the right process, we can build those working relationships with hiring managers that are effective. Organizations that have mature talent acquisition functions are 2.6 times more likely to have robust talent pools, and therefore you're going to see better metrics from that. And they're 5.3 times more likely to have effective social media campaigns, and all of that ultimately leads to some key success. Jade?
Great, thanks, Stephen. So we wanted to spend some time and talk about levels of maturity in recruitment marketing. And as we engage with organizations, we definitely see different levels of maturity in terms of marketing strategies and recruitment marketing capabilities in companies. So we want to talk about that a little bit. From a level 1 perspective would be what we would call the basics. Most organizations will be out posting jobs manually at various advertising destinations, probably searching third-party databases, job board databases for talent, and inviting people to apply for jobs in a fairly manual way. Perhaps or perhaps not leveraging their past applicants to come back and apply for jobs, and searching in their applicant tracking system for those individuals. Often we see at this level of organization, because not many channels are being used, maybe some basic advertising, some basic database searching, that it doesn't necessarily fill the requirements overall for what an organization has. And we see at this level often a bit of an overuse of agencies, a little bit of a scramble to fill jobs that leads to activities and channels of talent that are maybe more costly than others. From a candidate experience perspective, generally, a basic career site and basic application process online into an applicant tracking system. So that would be a pretty normal, what we call level 1 basic structure for an organization. Level 2, we would see some additional automation being put in place. So automated job advertising distribution, getting jobs out from a broader perspective to more places to attract in more talent. We'd see probably starting to centralize how individuals in a company are searching multiple databases for talent. So instead of logging into various databases individually, maybe they're starting to consolidate that experience for users. And from a candidate experience, starting to evolve so that there are maybe more specific application processes for specific types of talent. The recruitment organization probably has control over their career site. Maybe their career site is now a separate site that is speaking specifically to job seekers versus just being a part of the corporate career site. So it's a little more tuned to the function of recruiting, and probably some thought and level to how is the website actually working as an attraction tool to attract individuals in who are searching for jobs online, etc. So, at this level, you're starting to get a little more leverage, getting the word out faster to a broader audience, a little more automation in the process, a little more specific candidate experience. And I would say today that's probably where the majority of large organizations are today, is probably in level 2. Level 3 is starting to kick in a lot more channels to the mix. So what we see from a level 3 organization is they've got a foundation in place, and they're starting to go and leverage maybe per-click advertising online, social site advertising, referral programs, some more social recruitment. They're starting to build talent networks in advance of having specific job needs, starting to manage job talent pipelines so that they have specific individuals in the talent pipeline for jobs that they're working through to invite them to apply for specific jobs, being more proactive. That those individuals and the talent are being managed in an overall CRM system so that the recruiting organization are all working off of a single database of talent, meaning that there aren't individual resumes of people sitting on desktops of recruiters, but they're all in a centralized pool where everybody can search them, everybody can update conversations with individuals and manage the relationships with your talent pool. Also, we see organizations, when they get these capabilities in place to reach more broadly, that they start to be able to then put in more controls over agency spending because they're leveraging more channels to talent and getting more results from the broader reach, and agency requirements decrease. From a candidate experience, we see strategies like, instead of having a singular career site, multiple targeted career sites for specific regions or specific types of talent, or career sites being leveraged effectively for recruitment events that are specific for the purpose, making sure that there's an internal career site for managing internal mobility and individuals applying internally separate from external sites, social mobile career sites. So, this is extending from a marketing terms perspective, more targeted experience for the job seekers so that you're able to put up a specific site, not only with the type of content that somebody might be looking for. So if they're looking for a role in sales in the Northwest, maybe you have a career site for sales in the Northwest if that's specific for you. And with that, making sure that those sites are also where the individuals are. A social site, a mobile-enabled site, a website. So making sure that the technology experience and the targeted messaging is working for the individuals, and making sure then that as individuals search for jobs, they're finding those appropriate sites as well from a search engine optimization perspective. So when they're searching for a specific role, they're finding the specific site that you want them to go to. So this starts to sound a lot like digital marketing for consumers, which it is, right? We're making sure that your digital assets, your websites, whether it's social, mobile websites, are all tuned to the individuals, running targeted campaigns to specific talent networks, and making sure that those messages are specific and targeted, making sure your advertising campaigns are targeted to specific individuals. So the sophistication that comes at this level really allows organizations to use multiple channels to reach an individual. So you're not reliant on just a basic ad on a job board. You're reaching individuals through multiple channels of marketing. So you're reaching them through direct sourcing out of your databases and reaching out to them specifically. You're reaching them through social avenues. You're reaching them through online marketing and advertising. You're reaching them through your search engine optimization and using your website as a tool. And all of those experiences, making sure that they're targeted to specific types of talent. At this point, what becomes really important as well is starting to layer in some basic tracking to see what works. Because as you get more complex in the channels that you're using, it gets harder to measure what's actually working. So it's important to, at this level, as you start to layer in multiple different ways to get to individuals, that you're measuring where are our candidates now coming from in a more mature way, and what's working for your organization. As those strategies mature, organizations start to really experience a couple of things. One is measurement often gets difficult, and optimization and evaluation of what's working and changing the mix between those strategies becomes really important, because if you are spending time and money on these multiple channels, you want to make sure that you're able to gauge not only which channels are providing you the most applicants, but which channels are definitively providing you the most hires, and being able to measure at your advertising capabilities, your direct sourcing capabilities, and the candidate experience. So what's your candidate drop-off look like from the point that they enter your website to the point that they complete an application? Are they getting hung up in that process? So what's your conversion of job seekers to actual applicants through the process? Making sure that all of those are measured. So when we look at optimizing these types of workflows, whether it's the advertising, sourcing strategies, or your candidate experience, there requires a fair bit more sophisticated ability to track all of those activities, and getting beyond just tracking things like this advertisement yielded this many applicants, also being able to measure things like, we have 600 recruiters in our organization. Which ones of those individuals in their direct sourcing, if a recruiter invited 100 people to apply last week, did all of them actually apply? And of those ones that they invited to apply and that did apply, how many were hired? So you can start gauging the performance of your individual recruiting direct sourcing function in terms of its impact on finding the talent that you need. And that's a fair bit new conversation that we find for most organizations, that level of measurement into the activities, analytics. And to do this effectively, it's very hard to track these various activities and ensure that you're getting real data unless you're starting to look at an integrated platform in terms of how you're operating these various channels to market. So when we talk about that more mature stage of measurement, what is possible to measure, I think the first thing that we look for in organizations is to be able to put in place the ability for them to track for all channels. So they're advertised, whether it's their job board advertising, their social advertising, their pay-per-click advertising, their direct sourcing capabilities, their recruitment agency capabilities, their SEO to their website. Think of all the ways that they're reaching talent and be able to definitively measure which of those channels are able to derive hires from a source to hire perspective, which sources drive hires. Also, inside of each of those channels, then which advertising destination, which recruitment agency, which recruiter who's doing sourcing is actually providing those results down at another level of visibility and transparency to drive results. All right. In that capability from a source to hire then becomes the ability to look at productivity and sourcing activity as we were just talking about. So to make sure that your recruiters who are actually going out and looking for talent have all the tools to be productive. How productive are they? What's working? If they're searching in databases, they're finding people and inviting them to apply. Which databases are actually productive? Which recruiters are productive? And what's working for you, so you can develop internal best practices, teach your team how to do that better, and move forward. Not unlike you would see a sales and marketing organization who are looking for leads for sales teams, being really measuring what message is working when they're reaching out to people, what activities, what data sources are really working for them to reach their target audience. It's the very same activity applied here to recruiters. Talent pool strength and composition. So the ability to have all of the people that you are talking to from a recruitment perspective in one database. Your past applicants, all of the people you've downloaded from job boards in the past, all of the people who your recruiters have sourced directly, all the people who have registered with your organization into a talent network, into a central private database that you own of talent, and then understanding, well, what do we have? That asset that you build that way by having a centralized talent pool of all sources, what's the strength of it? Where did all those individuals come from? Where are they geographically? What types of talent do you have mixed? Do you have enough salespeople in your talent pool to meet your sales demand next year for hiring? Right? The ability to look and say, how engaged is my talent pool? Right? Of the 3 million people that are in our talent pool that have applied for jobs or that we've downloaded or just talked to in the past, how many of them were contacted in the last week, month, year? What have they done with us? Did they apply for additional jobs? Did they register for talent networks? Are they looking at content that we're providing? How engaged are they with our organization and where are they engaging with us? The ability then to go and track and talk about job pipelines and talent network reporting. So if you're building specific talent networks of individuals for specific types of talent or geographies, how are those growing? How many people do you have in your specific talent network for a specific purpose? Is it growing? Where is it growing from? So you can get better at growing it more quickly. There's a reason that you create these. Are they evolving? Are you hiring people from these talent networks? And we see this all the time. People have talent networks that they're building, but they've never actually marketed to them or are hiring from them. So, how effective are they in terms of a source for you? Per job, if you have direct sourcing capabilities in the organization, you have recruiters out looking for individuals to invite them to apply, how many people are they talking to for a specific role? And these aren't applicants. These are people before they're applicants. So if we have a position, are we talking to 30 people trying to get them to apply for the job, or 20 or 5 or none? How is our job, on a per job basis, how is our job pipeline looking? From a candidate journey and conversion perspective, individuals hit your website, what are they looking at? What content's most interesting to them? Are you optimizing your website to those experiences and that content? Are you making sure that then as those individuals look at jobs and they start to click to apply, that they have a good experience and are moving through the process? The hot conversation these days is your website and apply process mobile enabled, as north of 30% of job seekers are looking at your jobs on your website on a mobile device. Can they apply for a job on that mobile device? Becomes important if you're looking at optimizing. If you spend hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars, as many large organizations do, to attract people through to your career site, it's pretty important that you're converting those job seekers into applicants at a rate that makes sense. And the quality of your applicant experience is pretty critical in that, in looking at those specific measurements and ability to measure through each of those actions. Where did they drop off in our process? Why did they drop off? And be able to optimize that experience for individuals. And the key thing here, and we've been talking to customers about this for years at Talemetry, is the first person to leave an application process is probably your best talent, because they don't need the job. Right? And so it's not just the metrics of who doesn't complete a process, it's that the people who are leaving are probably the ones who you want the most. Right? So from some examples of what this might look like, this is a snapshot of the telemetry analytics. the ability to real-time log in and see how many people viewed jobs on job board advertisements, how many started an application, how many completed applications, how many were hired for a period of time, to be able to see that for your social sources, for your email campaigns, for your agencies, for your search engine optimization of your website, for direct referral to your website from other sources, and make sure that you know this. And this isn't up to candidates self-selecting where they came from. This is technology that's driving real truth analytics across this, right through to hire data. An example of job and talent network pipeline. So for a specific job, how many people are we talking to in this job in the CRM pipeline? How many have we invited to apply? How many have applied for this job in the ATS? And then obviously, ultimately at the end, one person would be hired. Right? Okay. Candidate journey and conversion. So how many individuals for a specific job and where are they sitting in the ATS applicant stage? So you're able to see how many have moved through the stages in the applicant tracking system. So the person who is responsible for driving in more applicants can see this data, what's happening downstream in the applicant tracking system, and know which jobs to work on, which jobs need more marketing help. Right? So just speaking about this quickly, when we look at these various strategies for marketing and sourcing and candidate experience, some of the things that are important to consider in the technology, the ability for advertising to be able to bring in all of your jobs from an applicant tracking system into a marketing system, and then be able to slice and dice those jobs into small feeds of jobs is very important for the automation of recruitment advertising today. So if you have 1,000 open jobs, you can say which of those jobs are sales jobs in the Northeast based on rules, so that an individual doesn't have to go in and make those determinations on 1,000 different jobs, but the system can determine those rules and then determine those are the jobs that show up on our website for sales jobs in the Northeast. Those are the jobs that get distributed to these advertisers based on their criteria. So it's very important to be able to have the ability to have rule-based automatic job distribution, and the ability to bring these jobs in from your applicant tracking system with real data, making sure that you have the full source tracking for all of those sources capable in the system, that you can do things like track not only where advertisements go and where these individuals come from, but also be able to track if your recruiters are sharing jobs on their social networks, if you're managing social sites, that all of that's trackable. From a sourcing perspective, do you have the capability to have one central talent pool, which means can you pull in all of your past applicants from your applicant tracking system, and then in that system where you're managing that talent pool, the ability to do federated search. So when you create a search for talent, can you search your applicant tracking systems, your job board databases all at once from an integrated experience, or your recruiters having to go log into 5 or 7 different systems to do their job in a day? If they can use one system, then you can start to track what they're doing. So you can see what works. So they create a search in one system. They search all of the various data assets that you have from one place. If they download people from a job board database, it's automatically coming into your system, so you can manage the relationships. You don't have multiple people talking to the same person. Make sure that that's a cohesive experience. Very important, by the way, for compliance and best practices training, so that you can train your recruiters and monitor what they're searching for from a compliance perspective. Once you have these individuals in this pool from all these different sources, how do you drive email marketing campaigns out to them on a time basis, whether that's a marketing campaign to let them know about a specific job opening, or whether they're in a talent network and you want to be able to communicate with them good information about your company and your industry, or overall against your talent network, you're just keeping in touch with people and making sure that your database is maintained. From a candidate experience perspective, the ability to control your career site, the ability to easily brand your brand and manage different sites for different purposes, whether it's mobile, social sites, or different targeted sites, the ability to make sure that your application process is mobile enabled and brandable to your organization. Can you do things like integrate assessments from an assessment vendor right into your application process, so individuals can go through your application process in a mobile device and take an assessment in line and then complete the application in one process and be into your ATS. Managing advanced SEO, career site analytics, managing campaign landing pages, microsites. So these are some of the capabilities that are required between to enable some of the modern recruitment strategies that we're talking about here today. Often what we see is that companies, as they start to deploy more channels and more types of marketing and sourcing techniques, they go and put one capability in at a time. So they put in a solution that manages their recruitment advertising. They put in a solution that manages their career site, put in a solution that manages some social referral sharing, and they end up with a half a dozen, or in some cases, dozens of different pieces of technology and solutions and vendors that are doing these different things. So on the one hand, very good. They're starting to get more broad in their strategies and the various channels to talent. On the other hand, it creates a real challenge for being able to see what works. Often these individual solutions don't work together to exchange data. There are definitions of managing and passing data around each other. So your advertising solution sends out ads directing people to your website. It doesn't pass that data through to your website as to where those individuals come from, and then through an application process. So you lose the tracking and analytics full circle of what actually worked from that advertising in the first place, because it gets passed from job board to advertising tech to website tech to an application process. And you lose data in that process that allows you to manage and see what's working. There's a lot of loss of efficiency as recruiters have to log into 5, 6, 7, 8 different applications to do their job in a day. And the candidate experience gets disjointed because the candidates often get passed through different experiences and different pieces of technology, often not brandable, some not optimized for mobile, etc. And often we find you start ending up with candidate databases in different places. You have a referral system where there's a bunch of people who were referred, and there's a database of candidates who were referred, completely separate from your past applicants who applied for jobs in an applicant tracking system, completely separate from downloaded resumes that recruiters are storing on their desktops, and have disparate places where all that's stored. So what's occurring is an evolution to integrated marketing platforms. And again, this has been the same evolution that's been occurring in corporate marketing systems for some time. So you buy corporate marketing systems today that manage multiple parts of these activities from companies like Salesforce.com that are optimized for sales and marketing of your products. What you're seeing evolve in our industry is integrated recruitment marketing platforms that handle all of those activities on one piece of technology. So that technology platform pushes your advertisements, manages your career site, manages how your applicants apply for jobs, and keeps that all in a cohesive piece of technology so that all the tracking and analytics can happen with one integration to an applicant tracking system, not several. Provides a cohesive user experience, a cohesive candidate experience. You know, some of the benefits of an integrated platform aren't just that you can enable your recruiting strategies, which it does make a lot easier to try new things, try new vendors, but beyond that, there's a real impact on just how recruitment operations can run from having a platform in place. You know, the unified analytics being one, but also if people who are managing your website and your advertising and doing your direct sourcing are all working on one platform, you get to optimize who does what jobs, where the handoffs are, because you're working in a singular application, and you're able to then work together on unified processes, which were often, without a platform, disparate, people working in different systems to do their jobs. So you can organize differently your roles. You can standardize best practices, which is really important from a performance perspective. So if there is one system that recruiters can go to search all databases that they have access to, you can train them how to do that. You don't have to train them on 7 different search capabilities and 7 different recruitment databases, for instance. So there's an efficiency gain of not having to log in and learn different system interfaces. And you can train those best practices with your team, but also there's a huge compliance win here in that if they're all doing it the same way and you're able to audit that, you're able to report on that from a compliance perspective, which gets very difficult to do if you're using multiple different systems. From an operations perspective, cost control, the ability to quality control the process if everybody's on one platform. Are we happy with the quality of what we're pushing out to candidates? Are we happy with our approvals and controls around costs that we're spending in the process? We have a simpler technology footprint to manage, and through all of that have a real impact on how you're operationally running your recruiting organization. Then also, if translating that into dollars, where does recruitment marketing and a platform that manages that have an impact? First and foremost is companies spend a lot of money to get people to apply for jobs. In North America this year, companies are going to spend $80 billion to get people to apply for jobs. And that $80 billion is spent on advertising and on career sites and on pay-per-click advertising and on recruitment agencies. So all of that money that's being spent, are you able to, A, in your organization, control who's able to spend the money? Are you able to track which of those sources is actually delivering value for you and stop spending money with those that aren't adding value and increase your spend on those that are adding value for an ROI? So managing your vendor costs first and foremost. Leveraging your existing systems. So as the industry evolves, your existing applicant tracking system will do certain things. Most of them aren't optimized for managing marketing and sourcing functions. So how can you preserve your investment in Oracle iRecruitment or PeopleSoft or Taleo Enterprise or Taleo Business Edition and leverage the lifetime investment in your applicant tracking system by layering on additional technologies and get an ROI from that? Managing your free sources, so making sure that your search engine optimization and pushing your jobs out broadly is getting out there. There's a lot of low-cost sources of talent that you're able to leverage when you're able to track and push them out more easily. Make sure that you're managing the efficiency of your recruiters. So if you have 600 recruiters, if you have 60, if you have 6, are they as efficient as they can be in terms of doing their job, and are they getting the results? And do you know that? How can you prove that and get an ROI from those activities? Right? So one thing we mentioned there is the integration to an applicant tracking system for these types of solutions. Very important that, and if you talk to individuals in corporate marketing, it's very important that they know in their marketing systems what's happening to the leads they pass to their sales force. So we generate a number of leads this month, and we pass those leads to our sales force. Now what's happening to those leads? Are we actually closing the business from those leads? Which sources are working in terms of providing a sale? Very similar conversation here. In recruitment marketing, you're generating lots of talent leads, lots of applicants. It's very important that your recruitment marketing system can read and see what's happening to those individuals in the applicant tracking system. So as people apply for jobs and they're moving through the application process, which ones are being hired, which ones aren't being hired, is your marketing system able to see that information? When you're searching for new candidates, can you see all the candidates that have applied in the past for a specific role and job from an end-to-end perspective in your marketing system? Are you getting in your reporting full cycle analytics from source to hire? Simple things like, can your recruiters log into a marketing system with the same login that they're using for their applicant tracking system, that all the jobs are coming across automatically from your applicant tracking system into your recruitment marketing system for distribution for advertising, for searching against in your CRM system. So these points of integration to make sure that your jobs are getting out of your ATS into your marketing system, your candidates who applied for jobs are being synchronized into your marketing system, that your users are able to leverage single sign-on, all become pretty important conversations to get the value and make sure that your recruitment marketing function is working really well with your applicant tracking system. And there's ways to start this integration without a lot of depth, and then get value, and then drive the integration more deeply. But overall, I think where most organizations want to get is a pretty deep integration between these solutions. So from our perspective, I think we want to share that there's it's never too early to start an investment. So we talked about the maturity model. We see a lot of organizations implementing broader marketing platforms for the recruitment function at earlier stages of maturity, so that it's easy for them to then add other channels to marketing and on one platform grow and do more. There's no need to replace your basic applicant tracking system. Leverage what you've got in place, and there's lots of expertise out there available to assist in this process. Probably in the recruiting talent acquisition function, enabling how you drive out your recruitment marketing strategies, making sure that you're optimizing your operations for your recruiting organization, and driving return on investment for the money you're spending is probably the biggest amount of conversations that we're seeing in our industry today. And the reason is a lot of money is still being spent, and it's often being spent ineffectively. We'd be happy to take some questions now in terms of our solutions, our organization, what we've heard today from the group, and answer those for you here today. And if other questions come up after today's solution, happy to speak with you as well. So I think, Ian, you were going to look for some questions.
I also wanted to remind our audience, if they wanted to submit questions, please do so at this time in your question and answer box on your webinar toolbar.
Okay, I do have a couple of questions here. First of all, let's see. We have one that is asking, what are some of the best channels you are seeing for your clients? I guess recruitment channels is what they're talking about.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. It's a little bit dependent on the level of talent and the industry. So I'll speak to that. If you're talking about entry-level positions and hiring a volume of people, largely you would see more of a marketing-oriented approach there, where you're advertising in a broad way and driving search engine optimization to really get the word out broadly to manage your channels. If you're talking about looking for specific types of talent, engineers, etc., then a more sourcing-oriented channel strategy would make more sense. So a little bit dependent on the role and geography. What we will say, though, is the biggest bang for the buck that we're seeing in terms of results is properly leveraging what's free. So getting in place your platform so that you can take advantage of free distribution to job boards like Indeed. Making sure that your website is optimized so that it can be indexed properly by Google. So when somebody is looking for a job, they find you. These things don't cost money, right? So those free channels are providing very, very strong results for our customers. And because they don't cost, the results and the ROI are very strong. So.
Okay. Let's see. How are you gathering source data? I guess you showed a lot of source data up there. So the question is about how that's gathered.
Yeah. So without getting too technical, basically, when our system has a job advertisement and it sends that job to a job board, for instance, with that goes a tracking code, so that anytime somebody clicks on that advertisement and they come back to our career site, we can tell that person came from that job board through that tracking code. When we send an email out of our CRM system to an individual, that email has a link back to a job on the career site. That link has a tracking code. So every activity that's initiated from our system, whether it's advertising or email sent or social shares on social sites, goes out with the ability for the system to track those people that come from those sources. If they don't come in through a tracking code, we still know. So if somebody comes from Career Builder without clicking on a tracking code and comes directly to our career site, we know that the referring site was Career Builder electronically, and we're tracking that as well. So there's multiple ways, whether it's our tracking codes, whether it's just making sure that we're reading the sources appropriately, that we're able to definitively track where individuals come from. One of the biggest challenges that's happening in the industry from an analytics and tracking perspective is twofold. One is the increased move to private browsing, where individuals are starting to hide where they came from on their web browsers from a privacy setting perspective. And that means it's very important to really be working your strategies behind how you are pushing out tracking codes, et cetera, and managing this, because it's not so obvious anymore. It's not as simple as putting Google Analytics on your website to see what's happening, because what you'll find is 80% of people are not letting you see where they came from through that channel. So that's becoming very complex in tracking. And the second thing that's happening is there's a new world of job boards who are coming to scrape jobs off of your website. So these aren't places where you're choosing to send your jobs. These are companies who are coming and scraping jobs off of your job site. The challenge from an analytics perspective that's happening is that every time one of these computer robots comes to your website to scrape the jobs, it looks like a person. And there's thousands of them. So it really distorts, without managing this, your actual traffic to your website and who's a human and who's not a human. So analytics and tracking in digital marketing is complex. But those are some of the things that we see that we ensure our solution can handle, and how we manage that. Now, that's the sourcing side. So that's where did people come from. As an applicant then applies for a job, we pass tracking codes from our system into the applicant tracking system, so that we can definitively then track that person, their source, through the hiring process. And as we then pull all of those applicants back into our system, we have the round circle of making sure that we know definitively where somebody came from that got hired or didn't get hired, and what source.
Great. Next is, what is the typical time frame seen for an implementation?
Yeah, so our solution can be up, honestly, in a couple of days from an implementation perspective. The challenge often comes in the decisions that an organization would need to make in terms of how they want to start using these technologies. So if an organization has never done a lot of direct sourcing, there's probably a lot of conversations that are required to outline how they want us to set up the system for them from a direct sourcing and search perspective, for instance. So most of the time element of an implementation is discovery with an organization on their strategies, how they want to measure and record things, the actual implementation technically, and getting all of their vendors integrated. So through our application, we're managing their integration with often dozens of job boards, advertising vendors, dozens of databases, many recruiting agencies that they're working with. So Sometimes that will take a little time to ensure that all of your vendor supply chain, all the people who are supplying you with talent from those different sources, are integrated into the solution. So typically, a month to 60 days would be a normal time frame, depending on how ready the organization is.
Okay, how would a system such as yours assist a federal contractor with remaining compliant and/or provide support during an audit?
Yeah, so there's a very specific question. So from a compliance perspective in marketing, there's a few areas that we have to manage. One is there are compliance requirements for how a company reports on searching in databases. So if you're searching in a database for talent, you may be requested to provide a report that says, who did you search for? What were the search terms that you used? So what we are able to do is, because in our system, recruiters are searching in one system, our system, and they're going out from our systems, and our system is searching for them, the various databases they have access to, and their candidate pool. We're able to record all the searches that an organization does and then report on those searches for the authorities if they come to audit you. So that's from a sourcing perspective on compliance. The other area is there are requirements for federal contractors to manage how they're advertising from a diversity perspective. So are you advertising your jobs to diversity-based job boards, and so through that process, we're able to track that your ads went to diversity job boards. We're able to track how many applicants are coming through those various sources and report against that from a regulatory perspective. So those are the main two conversations. There's a lot of other compliance that isn't based on being a federal contractor in terms of your career site being optimized for people with disabilities, making sure that you're compliant with data laws, email campaign laws. So there's a lot of other compliance, but from a federal contractor perspective, those are the main two.
Okay, good. And then also, because you're able to sort of auto broadcast based on rules, you can make that a very automatic process that all your recruiters are that diversity boards are being posted to, because you've set that up as sort of a
and search. So if you're conducting a search, you can make sure that you're searching the diversity databases every single time. It's not an option for a recruiter to not search them, and absolutely so that every time a job comes up, it goes to the diversity site. It's not an option for recruiters.
Yeah. Okay, I think we're getting down to about the last question, and I know we're getting down to time. Do you have any data about where most companies fall on the maturity model?
Yeah, I think everybody's kind of past the level one, right? It would be, in terms of enterprise clients and clients that would be using the Taleo Enterprise Fusion solution or PeopleSoft or IREC, organizations that are at that scale to use enterprise applicant tracking systems. Very few of them are probably in the level one of the maturity model. So likely more in the level two, moving to level three, right? So they're starting to broaden their channels, broaden their strategies. They're trying evolving their referral strategy, their social strategy, their pay-per-click strategy, their search engine optimization strategy. So they're making things more complex in terms of multi-channel marketing and getting the message out more broadly. So most would be in that move from kind of 2 to 3 is where we see most organizations, which is why we also see them starting to have the challenges with the complexity if they're not doing that on a platform versus point solution tools.
Okay, that's it for questions.
Wonderful. Well, I'd like to thank Jade, Stephen, and Ian, and everyone online for attending the event today. Please note that a replay will be available shortly on the OHUG website. The survey will appear on your screen when you exit, and we thank you in advance for your feedback. Thank you all again for attending today's webinar, and have a great day.